The numbers didn't lie. That's what I always believed. In the quiet, fluorescent-lit halls of Zeller and Marsh, a mid-tier financial consultancy firm cloaked in prestige, I had built my reputation one decimal point at a time. I was meticulous, invisible in all the right ways. No gossip, no wasted coffee breaks, no missed deadlines. I came early, stayed late, and believed in the integrity of the spreadsheet like a priest believes in scripture. That was my first mistake. The day it all began felt deceptively normal. Morning coffee. Inbox at 68 unread. A softly humming printer. But at 9:12 a.m., I was called into Harold's office. Harold Monroe. Senior partner. Silver hair, custom suits, and the kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes. He'd never spoken. More than 2 words to me in 3 years. Until now. I stepped inside. The blinds were half closed, slicing the room into shadows. "Sit down, Ethan," he said, tone syrupy. I did. He slid a red folder across the table. Q3 reports. Need a few adjustments. I opened it. My stomach sank. The profit margins had been doubled. Liabilities had vanished. It wasn't creative accounting. It was fraud. "You want me to submit this?" I asked, slow and deliberate. "I want you to fix it," he said, leaning back. "Make it clean, auditable, but optimistic." "You're asking me to commit fraud," he chuckled. "I'm asking you to be a team player. Look, Ethan, the real world isn't made of rules. It's made of deals." I looked him in the eye. "I'm not doing this." The room went cold. His smile died. "You're too naive for the real world," he sneered. "Maybe accounting isn't for you." 10 minutes. Later, I was packing my desk. No warning, no severance, no handshakes. Just an HR escort and a silence so loud it cracked something in me. But before I left, I made copies of everything. Emails, reports, memos, backup logs, even Slack messages. Every breadcrumb they thought they'd swept under the rug. I took it with me because the numbers don't lie, but people do. The box from my desk sat untouched on my kitchen table that weekend. I stared at it like it might explode. My girlfriend, Melissa, tried to talk to me about plans, brunch with her sister, a movie later. But my mind was locked in a loop, replaying Harold's words like a slow poison. "Maybe accounting isn't for you." The bastard had said it like a farewell to a cashier, not a man who'd spent years cleaning up his messes. But I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just opened my laptop. Buried in those documents were the seeds of something bigger. At first, I didn't want to see it. I wanted to move on, polish up my resume, lie low for a few weeks. But the deeper I looked, the uglier it got. It wasn't just 1 quarter. Harold and the senior team had been falsifying statements for at least 2 years. Shell vendors, phantom invoices, strategic write-offs disguised as executive retreats. I found transactions funneled through subsidiaries in Nevada, Barbados, even a ghost entity registered in Belarus. This wasn't creative accounting. It was white-collar crime on a grand scale. And I had proof. Melissa didn't understand why I wouldn't just walk away. "You're not a lawyer. You're not a whistleblower. What are you trying to be, Ethan? Some kind of vigilante?" But this wasn't about revenge. Not yet. It was about principle. About the look Harold gave me. The smug certainty that I was just another number he could erase. So, I did what I do best. I sorted, labeled, cross-checked, archived. I built a war chest of data so tight, even a Supreme Court judge would have trouble poking holes. I also started studying SEC filing protocols, whistleblower protection clauses. I read the cases, Enron, Theranos, Madoff. And I noticed something they all had in common. None of the villains ever expected someone like me to fight back. They thought being invisible made me weak. They forgot invisibility also makes you dangerous. So I bought a burner phone, created a secure Dropbox, reached out to a quiet friend I had from college, now an analyst for a local investigative news outlet. We met in a park. I handed him a flash drive. He scrolled through it for 10 minutes before looking up. "Jesus Christ, Ethan. This could bring down half the firm. I nodded. I'm counting on it. It took 4 weeks to set the trap. Not because I was unsure, but because I wanted them to feel safe. People like Harold don't get sloppy unless they believe they've won. I knew he'd already replaced me with some hungry intern who'd nod yes to anything for the chance to climb. I knew the Q4 reports were coming up, and I knew that once they hit submit, it became federal. So I waited. While I did, I met quietly with a securities lawyer in a backroom office 2 floors above a dry cleaner. Her name was Raquel Castillo. Sharp-eyed, blunt, no nonsense. "You've got the receipts," she said after scanning my files. "But if you want this to stick, we'll need to move in sync. News outlet, SEC, maybe even DOJ. You think I'll be safe?" She looked at me like I was an idiot. "Whistleblowers don't get safety. They get fire." I nodded. "I'm ready." That weekend, my name popped up on the company's internal alumni Slack channel. One of the junior analysts posted a pic of Harold shaking hands with a state senator at a fundraiser. The caption read, "Big wins ahead, proud to be part of something huge." Something twisted in my gut. He thought he was untouchable. I smiled. Perfect. I started phase 2, leaks. Anonymous tips sent to 3 separate news desks. Financial documents forwarded through encrypted accounts. I fed just enough to stir suspicion, but not enough to blow the lid. And then I waited until Friday, before Thanksgiving. Zeller and Marsh always submitted quarterly filings on the Monday before the holiday. Less press coverage, fewer prying eyes. But this time, eyes were watching. That morning, the firm's quarterly earnings hit the wire. Better than ever. A miraculous 37% growth in client portfolios. Unprecedented uptick in investor confidence. Harold had even scheduled a celebratory company-wide Zoom for noon, and that's when I dropped the nuke. At 11:45 a.m., a 28-page exposé hit the front page of the Financial Herald. Exclusive. Leaked. Reports suggest Zeller and Marsh falsified financials for over 2 years. I watched it unfold from a cafe downtown. My laptop open. Coffee untouched. Within minutes, the firm's website crashed. Stockholders started dumping shares. I watched the Zoom link go dark, and then my burner phone buzzed. A blocked number. Answered. There was silence. Then his voice. "You did this." I didn't respond. "You think this makes you noble? You just burned down your own career." I sipped my coffee. Maybe. But at least I didn't lie. "You little..." I hung up. The storm had only begun. By Monday afternoon, Zeller and Marsh was in free fall. News outlets scrambled for statements. Clients demanded answers. The SEC issued a notice of preliminary investigation by 3 p.m., and by Wednesday, the firm had frozen all external communications. I stayed quiet. Let the chaos cook. Then I got a call from Raquel. "The feds want a meeting. Behind closed doors. You're not under threat yet. But once they confirm this is real, they'll subpoena everything." "Good," I said. "Let them." I didn't want money. I didn't want fame. I wanted Harold to sit in the same beige conference room I had spent years in, only this time surrounded by federal agents and sweating through his expensive tailored suit. The confrontation came faster than expected. A week later, I got an invitation. No, a summons, disguised as a reunion with the firm's partners. They had no idea I'd already handed over everything to the SEC. I walked into the boardroom, the same one where Harold had once told me I was too naive for the real world. The air was tense. Men and women in tailored blazers sat stiffly, their smiles plastic. And at the head of the table, Harold. His skin had lost color. He looked smaller somehow. "Ethan," he said, standing. "We'd like to discuss a way forward. For everyone's benefit." I leaned against the back wall, arms crossed. "You mean before the subpoenas hit?" His jaw clenched. "We believe this has all been a misunderstanding. You lied to the government, to your clients, to your employees. There's no misunderstanding." A woman from legal cleared her throat. "Ethan, There's no need for hostility. We could offer a settlement, NDA, and no, I said. I didn't come here to bargain. I pulled a thick manila folder from my bag and slid it across the table. Timeline, transaction logs, wire trails, names. Harold didn't touch it. He just stared at me, rage behind his eyes. Why? He asked finally. You could have walked away. I gave him the same cold smile he once gave me. You told me I didn't belong in this world. Maybe you were right, but neither do you. I turned and walked out. Behind me, silence. 2 days later, Harold was arrested at his home. Front page of every finance outlet. CEO of Zeller and Marsh indicted on federal fraud charges. Raquel called me that night. They're coming for the whole board. You might have just triggered the biggest financial takedown this side of 2008. I didn't say anything for a while. I just watched the city skyline flicker under the weight of its own lies. Then I whispered, good. 3 months later, Zeller and Marsh ceased to exist. The building, once a glass monument to quiet greed, now stood gutted and lifeless. The name was scraped off the facade, their website redirected to a government seizure notice. Every partner on the board was indicted, most of them facing decades in prison. Harold, once hailed as a financial savant, was now a disgraced fraud. Cameras caught him leaving federal court, sunglasses hiding the shame he couldn't mask anymore. He didn't speak to reporters. He didn't look up. And when they asked about the whistleblower, me, he stayed silent. But I was watching, not for revenge anymore. That part was done. I was watching for something else. Peace. I never got rich off the scandal. I didn't want hush money or headlines. What I wanted was truth. To remind people that you can burn in silence and still rise with grace. That not every war needs fire. Some are won with patience, memory, and the unshakable belief that integrity isn't weakness. The firm's collapse triggered an industry-wide audit. 3 other firms were exposed for similar tactics. My report became required reading at 2 Ivy League business schools. Raquel called me once, after the Senate hearings. You know you could write a book, she said. You could own this moment. But I told her no. I didn't want to be famous for telling the truth. I just wanted the liars to know that someone saw through them and acted. 6 months after the fallout, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a torn page from my old employee file. My evaluation summary. Too quiet, too idealistic, not aggressive enough, written in Harold's handwriting. Beneath it, someone had scrawled in red ink. And yet, he won. I folded it back into the envelope, smiled faintly, and dropped it into the fireplace. The paper curled and turned to ash. I didn't need a company anymore. I didn't need their approval. I walked away on my own terms, and that was the real revenge.